Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming. Now, here we are. This is my last Dharma talk here at Shuso. And I'm really grateful of having had this occasion. For me, it has been the occasion for dealing with some important topics of my own life and to make peace in a certain way with my past. And it has been beautiful to share it all with you. Thank you so much. When I go to the school of talking about Buddhism, sometimes the students, a lot of times students ask me why you turned into Buddhism. Why did you become a Buddhist? Maybe you didn't find some answers. Maybe Buddhism gave you some answer that Christianity didn't give you. And I always answer no. I turned into Buddhism because Buddhism gave me more questions. Some new questions. For example, Jesus said, love your enemy. But Buddhism make me ask to myself, why I am not able to love my enemies. Both Jesus and Buddha, they speak a lot about love. It's the main teaching of Jesus and Buddha, I think. Even if you call love or if you call compassion, I think that all of you know the greatest commandment. I think that all of you know this passage of the Gospel. The Pharisees asked Jesus, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" And Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." And I think all of you know this very important passage of Dhammapada, the teaching of Buddha, 1.5, which says, "In this world, hate never yet dispelled hate. Only love dispels hate. This is the law, ancient and inexhaustible." So for both Jesus and Buddha, love is the law. Love is the way. When we think about love, when I think about love, I think that there is spiritual love. But there is always another kind of love. That is the secular, the profane love. There is a very famous painting of Tiziano, Scelio, the great Renaissance Italian painter. Sacred love, profane love. In this painting, there are two beautiful young girls. One is dressed completely from the neck to the toe with a beautiful dress. The other is naked with only a red veil that barely covers her body. And this painting is called Sacred Love, Mundane Love. I always deal with these two kinds of love. It's very important for me. Profane love is not so well seen when we talk about spiritual way, because profane love are passions. It's what we really love. Uh, Passions are something that we have at least to avoid, or at least to be careful, because passion, they turn us away from the way. Passion can be so like a heavy stone that drag us into the sea of samsara. Passions in Christianity are called temptation. In Buddhism are called bonno in Japanese, klesha in Sanskrit. That means obstacles, hindrances. Passion for me are the tasty side of life. Passion for me are what is life worth living for. I have a lot of passion. I love my wife. I love my dogs and my cats. I love the sensuality of a woman's body. I love music. I love art. I love music and film. In a certain way, I love dance. It's my work. In a certain way, my life is a kind of dualism. I live in the world of dance, in the world of art, in the world of in the floating world, in the world of the forms, of sensuality, of seduction, because art is this, is seduction, is sensuality. Dance is seduction, is sensuality. And I'm a Zen priest. I live in the rigorous world of emptiness. And my relation with the heart is very strong, is very carnal. I love to be upset by heart. I love to be shaken by heart. I love to be moved by heart. Whether it be a Baroque music piece, a Goya painting, or a Japanese zombie movie, I love to be shaken by heart. I want that heart make me say, wow. And most of all, I want to feel heart in my body. I don't like heart that doesn't make my body shaking, shivering with pleasure, with astonishment, with terror. So, heart is linked with my body. And heart and body is linked with the sense organs, sight, ear, nose, and all this stuff. And it's curious, when Dogen Zenji talk about the sense organs, he use a thought, he call it form and sound. And sounds and form is my life. Even in Zen, I love form and sounds. In my first talk, I told you how I was moved by the form of Zen, by the sounds. And Zen, amongst the Buddhist tradition, is the more rich for me with its sounds and form. Here in the West, we do very little minimum of sounds and form. But if you go to Japan, in a Zen traditional monastery, it's full of sounds and form. It is very charming, it's very fascinating. Sometimes more services in a Zen Japanese monastery are like a choreography. It's very complicated. So I do love sounds and form. Sounds and form are my life. And I think it's not only for me. We love things because they have sounds and form. Whether it be a simple flower that we see in the garden, whether it be old Chinese Ming pot. We love things because they have forms and sounds. This my relation with so strong with the heart is not so Buddhist, I think. Because according to Buddhist teaching, passions are not healthy. Passion can lead you to have an unstable mind, unbalanced mind. There is a very famous Theravadic teacher, now he's passed away, Achan Chan is very famous. He was a Thai teacher. And once I read his quote, he said, heart comes from the worst sides of human being. And I guess that for him that was true. Because hearts come from our ego. Sometimes artists are very egoic person. They want to express themselves, they want to show, they want to reach the top. Also, going to Mahayana, there is Thich Nhat Hanh who reformulated the five precepts. And when Thich Nhat Hanh speaks about the fifth precept, that is avoiding intoxicating body and mind, he says, the formula, I am determined not to use alcohol or other intoxicant or other item that contains toxins as certain TV programs, book, film, and so on. I am very afraid that Thich Nhat Hanh wouldn't love the kind of music and then the kind of music I love. I don't think he will approve. The problem with passions is that they unleash our desire, our lust. When we try to grasp the things that our sense organs make us feel, and we love it. And this causes trouble because we want to possess it. And it's not always possible because sometimes they are not available for us, or because sometimes they belong to some other people, and this make us suffer. It's not always like this. It's not always we want to possess things we like. For example, I think that most of us we love lions. They are so beautiful animals. But I don't think that we want to possess a lion and to bring into our house. Some people do, but most of people they don't. But most of the things we love, we want to possess. And this causes problems, tensions, conflict with ourselves and with other people. So for me, the body, my body, is the cornerstone between my spiritual life and my passions. Is the pivotal key point with which I deal both with the sacred and the profane. And I think it's not only for me. Religions, and in this case, Christianity and Buddhism, they always had a kind of ambivalent relationship, a double relationship with the body. For example, in Christianity and in Catholicism as well, body and flesh are very important. God created a human body. In Christianity, there is the mystery of incarnation. God becomes flesh. And in the Catholic dimension, In Christianity, they believe the resurrection of the flesh. The flesh will resurrect. That's why, for example, for most Christians, cremation after death is something to be avoided. And the soul exists inside the body. The soul cannot exist outside the body. I think that most of you they know that the words of Saint Paul in his letter to Corinthians, that when he says, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? Therefore, honor God with your bodies." And since the beginnings of Christianity, for example, there is Tertullian, who is one of the first Christian mystic, who says, "Caro, cardo, salutis." That means the flesh is the hinge, is the pivotal point of liberation. On the other side, both in Christianity and mostly in Catholicism, that in Buddhism, body is seen as something to subdue, to discipline, to punish, to cover with heavy dresses like this. Something to conceal, to mortify with fasting, with penitences, with abstinence and renunciation. Body is something to be hidden behind the thick religious dresses. When I did my Shuso ceremony, I was so happy that among the 3 Japanese guests there was Ikinambara. That was one of my teachers during my training period in Japan monastery. And Ikinambara was the teacher who had the task to look at how we dress. And he also said, "Oh, keep your necklace well, and don't let your hand be seen." So we have to conceal everything. And in Catholicism, for example, the religious love of celibacy for priests is something that implies the denigration of sex. And that's in Buddhism as well. It seems like sanctity seems to entail the covering and hiding of the body. There is another famous painting of Tiziano, who is Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene, in the legend, she was a prostitute who was converted by Jesus. And there is this painting of Tiziano which shows Mary Magdalene, and she is naked, and in his act of repenting, he tried to cover his body with his hair, with the hair. So it seems like when you go into the spiritual path, you have to cover your body. There seems to be a separation between the spiritual path and the sensual life. The body and the passion of the flesh belongs to the lower realm. The religious mind separated the physical from the spiritual, the sensual from the soul. The religious obsession with celibacy brings condemnation of enjoying and beautifying the body. There is a story in a Zen tradition about a nun whose name was Ryonen. She was a very beautiful girl, She was the daughter of a rich family, and she wanted to become a nun. But the family said, no, you cannot, you have to get married. So she get married to a very important samurai, and she gave birth to three sons. And when his husband died, she was free to go into the spiritual path of Buddhism. So she went to a monastery, to a Zen monastery, and she asked to be accepted. And the abbot says, no. Why? Because you are too beautiful. You cannot upset the monks. You can cause turmoil. And I think that this abbot, it was in a certain way, it was right, because maybe we can experience when a beautiful girl comes into a Zen temple, it can cause some kind of troubles. I experienced this. When a beautiful girl comes to practice in a Zen temple, in a Zen group, people don't act the same way they usually act. They all. So this teacher says, no, you are too beautiful. And she tried another time. And the teacher said, no, the abbot said no. So Rionen, she took a red hot iron fire hook, and she disfigured her face. And so the abbot allowed her to enter into the monastery. I hate this abbot. I cannot understand. So, but at the other side of the coin, there is our Western consumer attitude towards the body, towards the flesh, an attitude that has conquered the East as well. The human body, from the head to toe, had become an instrument of profit, a multi-billionaire dollar industry. People spend a lot of money to make their body look beautiful. And on the other direction, people spend a lot of money to try to get the flesh pleasure. This is a kind of a consumist attitude which denies the natural aging process and make us admire something that sometimes don't ever exist. Sometimes we go in internet and we see beautiful models, but in reality they are not like this. They are photoshopped. And we like photoshopped models. It seems to me that it's like the human being and a religious human being as well. He lives in a sense of everlasting contradiction between I am my body and I am not my body. I am my body because I express myself towards my body. And when I'm young, I love my body. I use it. When I'm getting old, I don't like so very much. It betrays me because it is not perfect, and it causes me turmoils. But on the other side, I am not my body. In Christianity, the body is the temporary house, abide of the soul, which is eternal. And in Buddhism as well, the body is not our real self, because there is no self. The body is a gift from the universe. Our body belongs to the universe because it's the result of the universe. So we are weaving from one side to another. I am my body. I am not my body. And what about Zen? For Dogen Zenji, body is not an obstacle for liberation. for enlightenment, but is the instrument, the tool by means of which we can realize our enlightenment, our liberation. We practice, we get enlightened, we understand with our body. There is a chapter of Shobogenzo which is called Zazengi. It is fascicle number 11, which is instruction for Zen practice. And it's a very short chapter, and the most of the entire chapter is about physical instruction. It's not about mind. It's always physical. You put your body like this, and like this, and like this. That means that for Dogen Zenji, the body comes first, is most important than the mind. During Zazen, we focus on our body, not on our mind. We do not try to control mind. We try to harmonize our body with checking the posture, checking our breathing. Then the mind comes. The way for Dogen Zenji, the way we keep our body is Buddha Dharma. It has nothing to do with the mind. And there is a famous quote from Zui Monkey, maybe you know very well, when Dogen say, there was a question, is the way attained through mind or body? In the teaching school, it is said that since body and mind are not separate, the way is attained through the body. Yet it is not clear that we attain the way through the body, because they say that since body and mind are not separate. In Zen, the way is attained through both body and mind. As long as we only think about the Buddha Dharma with your mind, we will never grasp the way. Even in a 1,000 lifetime or million of eons. And then he says, therefore, when we completely cast aside our thoughts and views and practice Shikantaza, we will become intimate with the way. For this reason, the way is doubtlessly attained through the body. Period. The way is definitely accomplished with the body. Caro, cardo, salutis. The flesh is the hinge of liberation. To glorify the mind for Dogen Zenji is a kind of weakened spirituality. So why Dogen Zenji says, when you practice Zen, drop off your body? I always question. And we are again, we have to deny our body when we practice? Why he say, drop off your body? And I think that, in my understanding, drop off body and mind is don't let body and mind condition our practice, meaning let body and mind be as they are. Don't try to force them. Don't try to arrange them as we would like them to be. Do not follow during our Zen practice our ideas, our model about how body and mind should be. Do not add anything else in your Zazen. Body drop off means that body is not abandoned, is not thrown away, is not dumped. It doesn't disappear, but became pure, undefiled, because it's seen in the light of emptiness and suchness. Because the unity of body and mind is free from the dualistic chains of our idea of conception about them. And so they work together with the whole universe. Body is not abandoned, but get reborn into a new life. Drop off body and mind is let the body express and manifest itself as it is, in its non-duality, in its original enlightenment nature. So we do have a body, of course, but we don't identify ourselves. We don't project on our body our ideas or concepts or conception how the body should be. So the body became Buddha Dharma and works together with the whole universe. I think it can be the same with our passions, because our passions are linked with the body. Our passions are born from the body, with our sensuality. If we don't identify too much ourselves with them, with sensuality, with body, with passions, sensuality and passion became pure, undefiled, light as feather. So, how we can live our bodily passions and our sensuality in a way that which they don't become obstacles, in a way which they don't become heavy like stones and don't drag us into the endless samsaric journey. One time, a monk asked to Joshua, where Joshua is quite a heavy presence during this period here. During a sermon, a monk asked Joshua, "In whom does Buddha cause passion?" Joshua said, "Buddha causes passion in all of us." The monk asked, "How do we get rid of it?" Joshua said, "Why we should get rid of it?" There is, if you ask me, which is your favorite Zen story, it is the story of a monk who is sponsored by an old woman. This is a habit that was in ancient China. This old woman sponsored the monks, meaning he built a hut for him and he gave food to him in a way that he could continue his practice because he was a very skillful monk. So this woman built this hut for this monk, and every day sent her nephew to bring food to this monk. And this nephew was very young and beautiful. And one day, this old woman wanted to test this monk and asked her nephew, "Try to seduce this monk and let's see what happens." So the young girl went to the hut, bring the food, and then she begins to caress this monk and laying her head, and he say, "What do you feel?" And the monk said, "The withered tree is rooted in an ancient rock, in bitter cold during winter month. There is no world, no life." He said, "No way." The girl reported this to a grandma, and the old woman said, "That vulgarian, how outrageous! To think that I have made offerings to him for 20 years." And so the old woman went to the hut and burned it down and chased the monk away. What does mean this story? That cutting off passions is not the way. Cutting off passions is not a way to realize, for example, the third precept. I think that when we deepen our practice, our hearts should become more and more open. We should keep the door open. We should keep the warm fire of our sensuality, of our love. There is a saying in Latin that says, omnia munda mundis. That means everything is clean for those who are clean. How can we keep that door open, but still maintaining our integrity? How to keep our fire burning without getting it burned? How can we be true in our feeling of love and passion and do not fall into the well of misconduct? I think that, again, the body can help us. The body can be our teacher. If we listen deeply to our body, in its truth of impermanence, of interconnectedness, it can be very helpful. It can help us to bring our passion into questions. For example, my body is aging, and I realize that I'm not as a skillful dancer as I was in my 20s, in my 30s. That's the truth, and that is the teaching of my body. I love rock and roll, but if I became deaf, my passion for rock and roll would disappear. I love to dance, but if I will lost my legs, I could not dance anymore. That's the very teaching of the body. I often said I would like to have my body, the body of my 20s, and having my mind of my 50s. But I know that it's not possible, because I was so stupid when I was in my 20s. I was so weenie and depressed, and I said, oh, I lost a lot of chances, and I wish to have a 20 body and a 50 mind, but my 20 mind belongs to my 20 bodies, and my 50 mind belongs to my 50 body, because that's the way the body teach me. And then another way, another things that can help us are the precepts that Buddha established, to like a guideline, in a way that we can keep our fire warm, but not get burned by it. Precepts are not a list of things what to do and not to do, because they can change in time and space. I remember when Gyatso and me, we went to Cambodia. It was so hot, and we go into a coffee bar, and we wanted to have a beer, and the owner refused, because he understood that we were monks. He said, no, okay. So we had to explain, we don't belong here. So precepts, they change in time and space. I think that is the basic attitude we have to keep, talking about precept. And the basic attitude is not to create sufferings, not create sufferings for me and for other people. Dealing with my passion, dealing with my sensual life, with my sexual life, I'm creating, or did I create suffering for me or for others with my patience? I think this is the great help we can have. I discovered a phrase, a saying from Kant, the German philosopher. He says, act in such a way that a human being, in a Buddhist way it can be every sentient being, either if it is you or another being, be always the goal and not merely an instrument. Acting in a way as the life itself be always the goal and not the instrument. I think it is this way. I would like to end with a quote by a Zen teacher, Subhana Barzaghi Roshi. She says, if we hold a reverence for life, an awareness of our interconnectedness and oneness, and we experience the other as not other than our very self, the boundaries of a separate self can fall away, and life is making love with life. The sacred is to be found in the ordinary, and the ordinary in the sacred. I would like to live like this. I want to live both the spiritual path and my passion, learning the truth that comes from my body. I want to be hugged and caressed by the young girls. I should not say this in front of my wife, but I want to be hugged and caressed by life itself, by heart, by patience. And then say, thank you so much, I really appreciate it, and let her go. And say thank you to life and to patience. As the way I want to thank you, all of you, for being listening to my bad English talks with patience and with sympathy and supporting me during all this 3-month hunger. I have no words to say. Thank you to you, all of you. I don't know if you have any questions or any comment.
Thank you. You addressed a number of questions that I have had for quite a while. I'm a fairly beginning Zen student for just a couple of years, but I have often stewed over the Four Noble Truths and the fact that we must believe that all life is suffering. And the hang-up for me is my passion for Johann Sebastian Bach, who I find no suffering with ever, and it's been my personal koan. I think even if all musical instruments were taken away, I could still play him in my mind. And then I think, well, I could lose my mind, but I just experienced the death of my oldest friend from Alzheimer's, and even as she lost her mind, she was comforted by the French suites. So I just want to thank you, because this was very enlightening for me to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Thank you. When we talk about the Four Noble Truths, sometimes there is also a problem of translation, because often the term, the dukkha, that we often translate as sufferings, I think is not the right translation. Dukkha is a sense of instability. Of I read that the term dukkha is the root of the term is the same term that is used when a wheel of a chariot is not well fixed. So the chariot will go a little bit like this, and I think this is the real meaning of dukkha. It's not that life is as the nature of sufferings, but life has the nature of changing, and sometimes we like, and sometimes we don't like, and changing make us feel unsafe, uncomfortable. So life is uncomfortable because sometimes we like, sometimes we don't like, and even in Christianity, there is a famous quote. Jesus said, "The Son of the Man has no place when he can put his head to rest." And this is our life. We have no place to be safe. But I think that the first noble truth can be turned into enlightenment if we understand. All the Four Noble Truths we can see from the Buddha point of view, and they can see, oh my gosh, this is so terrible, this Four Noble Truth. But we can see the Four Noble Truth from the side of enlightenment and see this is the life. Life is impermanent, but it's the beauty of life. And learn to love back with deeply awareness. There will be one time when back can disappear from the world, or back can disappear from our minds, because maybe we can get old and lost our memories, and back would disappear. So I think this is the way we can look at the first noble truth.
Thank you very much for your talk. And about art and passions depicted in art, like let's say violent art, or also our passion for art. One thing that I question myself about is, why do I like violent art? Yeah. But one thing that I believe about art of all kinds is that it helps us to make connections with other people. So art is a communication if you're making art, and it's also if you're listening to Bach or Nine Inch Nails or whatever,
Yeah.
then you are receiving, but you also are participating, and so you really are together with everything, I think, in the receiving or making art. So for me, that's part of Buddhist life.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to say about where Dogen says dropping off body and mind. I can't remember exactly what comes after that, but doesn't he say that you are verified by all things?
Yeah.
Doesn't that come next?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and you spoke about that as well. But to me, again, it's that connecting that is something to celebrate. You know, if you are able to drop off your body and mind, I would guess that what happens then is that you are verified by all consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, okay.
And Joshua says, passion is Buddhahood, and Buddhahood is passion.
Mm.
Me too, I love violent art.
Mm.
And the poor Joette, so she's a kind of victim of my my passion, because I lacked the, I think that violent art can upset us and give us a shake from our so comfortable point of view about things. So in that way, I think that Nine Inch Nails is Buddhahood.
Before you were a priest, you're a passionate Italian man. Catholic priests and all other Buddhist priests cannot marry. So would you have become a Buddhist priest? I mean, if there was not the possibility to incorporate your passions in your practice?
No.
Yeah.
Let's see what to address there. I agree with what you said. Just in your description, I appreciate your candidness. It's really remarkable. But in our culture, our consumer culture, and so forth, this word passion is used for selling tennis shoes.
Sorry?
The word passion is used for selling tennis shoes.
Yeah.
It's really, we talk about, I mean, the commercial establishment makes strong use of passion.
Yeah.
It's analogous to, I don't know what, but it's considered like a positive thing. So it would be too bad, I think, if someone walked out of here and was feeling, I don't have much passion for anything.
Mm.
You know, where does that put me? Where does that lead me? You know, there's something, anyway, in our culture at this time, it lends itself to misuse. So one might ask, you know, what about equanimity, which is another very common term in Buddhism, Zen, and so forth. Not that I expect or ask for a whole lecture on equanimity, but it's just my opinion or sense that we need to be a little careful about,
Yeah, of course.
You know, I'm all for getting rid of the Jews, or I'm all for, you had a lot of passion in the Deep South before, you know, civil rights and so forth. At least in our place, our time, not Italy and the Vatican Museum and so forth. So that's all I have, but I definitely appreciate your.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, I think there is sometimes it's very difficult to not to go into the well of getting lost into passions. That's why, for example, many people, they feel comfortable when they want to really go inside a spiritual path to get rid of it all, their belongings, to not to and to avoid sensual relations. I hope that I can be I can go straight, and I think that what I said about the precept, they can be a guiding line. Are my passion causing sufferance to other people or not? This is something I always ask myself. I think that, for example, sex is a very strong energy that it moves us, and I think that we can enjoy, for example, the beauty of a sensuality of a body. We can really enjoy it, but we have to be very very straight. Yes, and keeping us myself. I'm causing suffering? Is that this, for example, this model I'm looking at, is she suffering or not? Is she being exploited or not? There is nothing bad in seeing a naked body of a woman. But if that woman is suffering for this, it's not bad. It's not good. This is for me is the important turning point.
Well,
Oh,
you started your talk by saying you were drawn to Buddhism because it let you ask more questions.
Yeah.
I have to say I was drawn to Buddhism for exactly the same reason. And so I kind of have a reputation for the fellow that asks 100 questions, and I apologize for that, but I have so many. I hear your teachings, I go home, and I love to cut grass. And so I get on my mower, and all of a sudden your voice is coming through my head.
oh my gosh.
And,
They soon will disappear.
and then the questions start. So I want to make a couple of comments, if I might, and then it will lead to a question.
Yeah, we are a little bit out of time. But
When you talked about the Tertullian hinge, the first thing that occurred to me is that every hinge has to have a pivot. And that central pivot, whether it be the teachings of Christ or the teachings of Buddha, is really what lets that hinge work smoothly. And if you don't have that rigid central pivot, you get the wobble you talked about on the chariot. And so now the question. I have to make another couple of comments before the question. I'm sorry. When you talked about the resurrection of Christ, you chose one version, or really three. In one version, the boulder's not rolled away, and Mary arrives and is distressed. She doesn't know what to make of anything because she wants to go in and anoint the body of Christ with unguents. I'm not sure I'm going to get the sequence right, but I think the second sequence is the one you talked about, where Mary comes and sees a man we all assume, most of us, and in the Christian tradition assume that's an angel, that's guarding Christ's final resting place for the body. The third version, to me, is the most interesting of the three. The third version has Mary coming to see the boulder rolled away, and only the discarded funeral garments strewn about. And then she encounters someone she doesn't recognize, only later to be told that it's Christ, and she recognizes that, and then to be told, but you can't touch me because I'm not yet, and I don't quite remember the wording, but I'm not yet corporal enough. Now for the questions. At one point you said, I hope I didn't misunderstand you, that when Buddha Shakyamuni died, he said, I'm not coming back.
Mhm.
Every teaching of Christ is that I am coming back and there will be eternal life as a consequence. Much of Buddhism hinges on, I think, almost the hope of reincarnation and the gradual purification through purification of yourself. While the big difference for Christianity is an external salvation. Why do you think the two traditions have diverged so?
The two traditions have?
The question is, why are the two traditions so disparate? Why does one rely on external and the other on internal, which ultimately it seems to me is the center why we all become Buddhists.
Yeah, first of all, I have to say one thing. I am Buddhist 100%. I don't want to be a Christian Buddhist or Buddhist Christians. The aim, the spirit of my thoughts is to see the Christian's teaching from a Buddhist perspective, to try to give to the Christian teachings a interpretation, a key of interpretation from a Buddhist point of view. So that's I want to be clear that I know I don't want to be with 2 feet in the in 2 different channels. And I think that a Christian cannot would not be in agreement with me, and of course I guess it would not be. For answer to your second question, I think it's a very difficult question for me, and it has something to do of the different conception of time in Buddhism and Christianity. For Christianity, time is something limited towards eternity with the presence of God. And from a certain point of view, God, okay, let's create history. And history was starting to year 0 and is going. I don't know why God, that's funny invention, but he didn't invent histories, he didn't invent time. And history, according to Christian teaching, has to end. And there will be a final day of history. And then, I don't know what will come after, but I think eternity will come after. And so we are living, according to Christianity, in a kind of temporal, partial time. I don't know, something that is in the mysterious project of God to have this history, limited time history that has beginning and end. And so I think that is the way that is conditioning the eschatological view of Christians. We want to, in a certain way, to survive this period of history that is a lot of it's so messy, and we want to live into eternity. I think Buddhists has a different way. There is no sense of history, I think, in Buddhism. So time is sometimes like a circle, and yeah, it's too complicated for me to understand and to explain, but time is the present moment, is what is happening. You cannot touch time. According to Dogen view, you cannot catch time. You cannot say this is the present moment, because we cannot split the present moment in two. The way we say now, yes, if I say now, there is an N and there is an O and W that is splitting the present moment in two. So it's very different the way to understand time, because for Christians, eternity, they think is something that is an enormous amount of time that never ends, but there is still time. For Buddhism, time is a kind of illusion, and we are aimed to get rid of that illusion and to try to live, to push out every idea of time from our mind. It's too difficult, sorry, for me to explain. That's
It's an incredible answer, thank you. Now may I ask one more question?
Oh my God. we have the door.
Okay.
So what time is it? What time?
20 after.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just one more quick question.
Okay.
Shakyamuni's not coming back. Where did he go?
Shakyamuni say, I am my teaching. So Shakyamuni is still with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.